Today we had the deep state, the dark intelligence state, continue its efforts at regime change. Here at home, we had John Brennan, former CIA director, going before Congress today, testifying. And just to put this in context, we've been talking about the political correctness, the suicidal political correctness that we're seeing in the wake of the bombing in Manchester. And we had CIA Director John Brennan back in September, just so that you remember, said that words or comments that taint a religion as being the source of the problem are detrimental to our interest in dealing with the Muslim world. And this, of course, as you can see there on that screen, this is a guy who was the CIA chief of station in Saudi Arabia. So clearly, when you're there in Saudi Arabia, you certainly understand that Islam is a religion of peace and tolerance, right? We talked about that a great deal yesterday on the radio program, all the different crimes and punishments that we see in Saudi Arabia and just how similar they are to what ISIS does. But it's okay when our allies chop off heads and limbs, but it's not okay when ISIS does it because, you know, they're working with us, with the CIA. Now, today, what he said was, of course, feeding this Russian Democrat conspiracy theory that we hear. He says that he believes that Russia is trying to actively exploit animosity in Washington. So that wouldn't be coming from the Democrats. The Democrats are not trying to create division and animosity in Washington. No, that is simply the Russians who are doing that on Capitol Hill. So today he goes before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and he says several things to them. As the Washington Post says, these are 5 moments that show that Trump isn't about to get any help from the intelligence community. We've known that for over a year, haven't we? These people openly campaigned against Donald Trump, and they have been slandering him ever since, coming up with things that are not even really rising to the level of allegations. They haven't alleged anything specifically. They haven't shown us any proof. What they have done is a lot of innuendo, and I'll show you this. Washington Post thinks this is very damning, but I don't know. I think it's very damning to the other side. Number one, they said it should be clear to everyone that Russia is brazenly interfered in the 2016 presidential election process. That's what one of the first things that John Brennan testified today. So I'd say, again, show me the evidence instead of repeating vague innuendos. Then he goes on to number 2. He says, my radar goes up when I see certain things that I know what the Russians are trying to do, and I don't know whether or not the targets of their efforts are as mindful of Russian intentions as they need to be. Again, he's not accusing them of doing anything. He's saying, well, you know, I think the Russians are trying to rig things, and maybe you don't really understand what they're trying to do. So he says, don't jump to conclusions about Islam, he said before, but do jump to conclusions about people who are Trump appointees or President Trump as well. Then number 3, he says these contacts that might have been totally innocent and benign, as well as those that might have succumbed somehow to those Russian efforts. So again, he throws this out there and says with innuendo, I think that there's something here. I think there are things that send up my radar signals. I get this twitchy feeling about this. And yet it may be totally innocent and benign. Well, which is it? You've been investigating this for over a year. Maybe you could come to a conclusion. Maybe you could offer some specific charges even, and then began to try to prove those charges. No, he just continues to throw out the innuendo. Number 4, I believe they tried to damage and bloody her before the election, he said of his patron, Hillary Clinton. And again, we know that John Brennan was very closely tied to Hillary Clinton. We'll talk about that just in a moment. Finally, the 5th one, he says, any political shaping of the intelligence community would not be appropriate. I have made my position clear on that to this administration, and I intend to maintain that position. Okay, that came from the Director of National Intelligence, Daniel Coats. Really, I mean, do you think that the intelligence community is politicized? I mean, it's only a problem if somebody alleges that Donald Trump says, hey, you guys have been investigating this for a while, right? You haven't found anything, right? Could you tell people that you haven't found anything? You're getting political here. Now, see, the witch hunt is political. Now, if we look at the Hill, they say the ex-CIA head, intelligence shows contacts between the Russians and the Trump team. They say that John Brennan today said that it left him concerned about the possibility of collusion. Do you see this passive aggressiveness that's going on here? It's always right up to the point, but never quite making a charge. And then he goes on to say, I don't do evidence. I don't do intelligence when they tried to pin him down. See, this is what I'm saying. Trey Gowdy was tired of all the innuendo and is like, at least give us some allegations. To which Brennan said, I don't do evidence. I do intelligence. I do intelligence. No, what he does is he does espionage. He does the overthrow of governments. He does politics is what he does. He doesn't do evidence. He does those things. He does espionage, overthrowing governments, and politics. And Trey Gowdy said, well, I appreciate that you don't do evidence, Director Brennan. Unfortunately, that's what I do. You and I both know what the word evidence means. We're not getting into whether or not you corroborated, you contradicted, you examined, or cross-examined. We're not getting into how you tested and probed the reliability of that evidence. It's really just a simple question. In other words, put up or shut up. You're playing this political game, and we understand precisely what you're doing, these slippery little snakes. And let's go back and take a look at who this guy really is. Let's go back to 2013, for example. At the time, we just had Michael Hastings, who had died in a very suspicious car crash. His motor was ejected down the road, and then the car turned over to the side. It burned up in flames as it slowly went into a tree. It really wasn't smashed up that much. And, of course, the gas tank in the back was uncompromised. So it looked like it had exploded as it was going on. A lot of people talked about that. He said he was being followed. He was concerned that they were going to try to take over his car. Well, in August 2013, we quoted a reporter at San Diego 6 News, Kimberly Dvorak, said John Brennan was Hastings' next expose project. She said she received an email from the CIA acknowledging that Hastings was working on a CIA story that was centering on Brennan. Why would he be centering on Brennan? Well, because Brennan was behind the witch hunts of investigative journalists learning information from inside the Beltway sources, said WikiLeaks. They said there's a specific tasker from the White House to go after everyone printing materials negative to the Obama agenda. Even the FBI is shocked, according to the email that WikiLeaks published. Before being sworn in as CIA director in March, Brennan had been a counter-terrorism advisor for the Obama administration and helped to compile the kill lists, the assassination lists for the White House drone assassination program. Now, if we go to just about a month or so ago, we had Paul Watson reporting that the former CIA analyst, Larry C. Johnson, said that according to his sources, the Obama administration worked with the NSA, the CIA, and Britain's GCHQ to disseminate information about Donald Trump that was illegally obtained via surveillance before the election. Johnson joined the CIA in 1985 and was later promoted to become senior regional analyst for Central America before moving on to work at the State Department. And what he said was, I understand from very good friends that both James Clapper and John Brennan at CIA were intimately involved in trying to derail the candidacy of Donald Trump, that there was some collusion overseas with Britain's own GCHQ. See, that's where the collusion is. The people who tried to hack our election, the people who interfered with our election were, first of all, the DNC. Hillary Clinton, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and the people that worked with her. They hacked the primary against Bernie Sanders. But as we always see, when somebody exposes their crime, they want to focus on who's this whistleblower? How did they get this information? And that's what we're looking at now. We're going to find out how we got that information. We've had the testimony of a UK ambassador saying that it wasn't a hack. It was information that was turned over to him, that he came to the United States, that he had this information turned over to him. We've had Julian Assange, who has told us the truth, unlike James Brennan and John Brennan and James Clapper, who have lied to us repeatedly. Julian Assange has told us the truth, and he has told us that it is no state actor that is involved in this. And then just so that you understand where we are, there was this interesting article that came out also last September where John Brennan, in a speech where he was talking, this was reported by CNN, he was saying that when he joined the CIA, they asked him, and there's going to be a lie detector test, had he ever done anything that would, had he ever worked with a group that was dedicated to overthrowing the government? And he said, well, I had voted for the Communist Party, and I really wasn't sure about that, so I fessed up to that. And he said, I wouldn't be here. That was disqualifying. See, it's not disqualifying to be a communist, to be somebody who wants to overthrow the government. Maybe that is something that they're looking for at the CIA, especially when it comes to overthrowing our own government. Stay with us. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the budget. We're also going to take a look at the efforts to lynch Sheriff David Clark. We'll be right back.
The reason InfoWars Life has 5-star ratings on major third-party sites is because I want products I'm going to use for my family. I take this, my family takes this, and then it funds the operation with the most hardcore, truthful information you're going to find anywhere. So what you find in our news is the same thing you find in our products at InfoWarsLife.com.
If I ever forget to take them, I have a noticeable difference. I don't feel good. The nascent iodine is one of the ones that was life-changing for me.
Yeah, I actually have just run out of my super female. I had a few bottles at my house, and I've been taking it again, hitting the gym once again. Very exciting, feeling great, looking good. So, and I know my hair is luxurious once again. So obviously the super female is amazing. I love it.
Nascent iodine is essential. Survival Shield X2. If there's one product that I would say is life-changing that I would suggest, it's Nascent iodine Survival Shield X2. It's got a 5-star rating.
It's a win-win. InfoWarsLife.com.